Welcome to Homeschool is a Work of Heart. I'm Melissa Webb, and after years in the classroom and years homeschooling and supporting those in home education, and even more years creating curriculum for families like yours, I have learned this. Homeschooling isn't about perfection. It is about purpose. And this podcast is here to encourage you, to guide you, and to remind you that what you're doing truly matters. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Well, hello everyone. Guess what? I did it. I set a goal. I worked for the goal. I completed the goal. And now I find myself thinking, now what? If you have been following along, you already know that back at the end of May, my kids talked me into running a 5K in August, which wasn't a hard sell. I really was missing that kind of athleticism in my life, but I had taken a 10-year sabbatical, I guess, from running. 10 years, pretty long sabbatical. But they did plant the seed. Then I watered that seed for 9 weeks, and I showed up, and I was running 5 out of 7 days a week, and on my 2 rest from running days, I was still walking 2 to 3 miles. I really showed up and tended my garden. And then on August 8th, I harvested my crop. Yes, do you see where I'm going? Analogies speak to me, and I think they make for more interesting podcasts, and I certainly hope that you agree with me. Hey, if you're brand new to Homeschool is a Work of Heart, I want to first welcome you. And if you are returning for the umpteenth time, I love that you are so wonderfully loyal to this podcast. It certainly is an incentive for me to keep going. And so I was on a recent run. Yes, I am hooked. I am planning to do more. But on this run, I passed an alfalfa field out by where we live. We're kind of country people. We live out on 5 acres. And so on my run, I passed this alfalfa field, and I was thinking, I bet they're probably getting ready for their final cut of the summer. Harvesting time is coming to an end. And then I had that in my mind, and this is just how my mind thinks. I started to go back into my run, and I thought, wow, my run is kind of like a garden, right? I planted a seed, then I tended what I had, and then I went to the event. Now, my 5K took me a total of 42 minutes to complete. And that was 3 minutes longer than I had hoped. I wanted to get in there in the 30-minute range. So I would have been super happy with 39 minutes, but I got 42 minutes, which is great. I'm very proud of myself for having done it. And in my age bracket, there were 15 of us in our 50s, and I came in 5th place out of 15. And I'm happy with that as well. This is my starting point for picking up running again. And now I have a time to beat. I also need to start thinking about planting a new seed. So, do you tend a garden? Do you have a garden at your home? Are you thinking or planning a fall or a winter garden? And what will you plant if you do? I'm so curious, like root vegetables, leafy greens, maybe favorite bulbs. If you do any of that, you know how crazy it sounds to plant a seed one day only to dig it up the next day to see if it grew. You wouldn't do that. Farmers, gardeners would not do that. I wouldn't do that. And yet I'm questioning, do we do this in our lives? If I had said, yes, I love this idea of running the 5K, and then I ran my first mile, which when I did, I ran that first mile, it took me 16 minutes. If I had said, forget it, I can't run a 5K, look at this, it takes me too long. That would be like pulling the seed up too soon. What I needed was time and patience and perseverance, all of those things before I would truly be ready for the harvest. And so I just wonder, are we doing this with our lives? Do we do this with our children? Now, I am not a big gardener at all, but I do grow some herbs and peppers, tomatoes. I've grown some strawberries from time to time, and there is something incredibly satisfying about walking outside, looking at my strawberry plant, finding a perfectly red, ripe strawberry, warm from the sun, just slightly warm, picking it and eating it right there. The best part of gardening is the harvesting, because watering the dirt, pulling the weeds, and waiting patiently are not much fun, in my opinion. But I also know how essential they are. And the better I am at doing all of those things, the better chance I have at a really good harvest. But here's the thing that I really want to drive home in today's podcast. Most days are not harvest days. So think about that. Most days are not harvest days. And that's okay. But I think it's something we need to remember, especially as we're heading into a brand new school year. Because right now, it's time to plant the seeds. You're pulling out curriculum. You're setting up schedules. You're maybe finding some classes or courses, maybe some new dance or a sport activity. You are buying school supplies, you're sharpening pencils, establishing routines, all the things. Those are like planting the seeds. And maybe you are starting something completely new, like one of our online writing programs. I would love that. Or maybe you're returning to something that worked really well last year, like one of our online writing programs. But either way, you probably have some pretty high hopes for what this year will produce. You want your children to learn and to grow, to become more independent or more responsible this year. You definitely want them to become more confident. That's what we want to harvest. Those are what I would call our harvesting dreams. But sometimes we plant something and immediately start looking for growth. So maybe we start a new math program, and then 3 days later, we're frustrated and we can't believe we have to repeat ourselves again. And we're wondering, why are they getting this concept? We've been on this for 3 days. Or we establish a new routine on Monday. You're super excited about it. And by Thursday, nobody's following it. Or our child struggles for an entire week with a new class, course, curriculum, and we think, oh no, maybe we chose the wrong thing. Maybe my child's behind. Maybe I'm not doing enough. While all of this is normal, I just want to have you consider, what if nothing is wrong? Maybe what we're doing at that point is pulling up the newly planted seed out of the dirt and looking at it. Why aren't you growing? The answer is simple. It hasn't been given enough time. It needs better tending. Okay? So first, we're going to have to tend our little gardens. And there are 3 things that I want you to do this week. And I highly recommend you grab your journal. Your answers today should be reviewed at the end of the semester. And then again at the end of the entire school year. And the first couple ones you're going to be able to fill out, I think, pretty easily. And then the last one you're going to come back to as you start to harvest. But I think this would be a really good way for you to prepare your own thinking for a super successful school season. And that's what I want for you. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to think about and write about is the season that you are in. This is the beginning of a school year. So I would call this planting season. You are establishing habits. You are teaching with clear expectation. Maybe you're even having to rebuild some stamina if you took the entire summer off, but you're figuring out what works for this particular child in this particular season. And if you homeschooled last year, you may even have to teach some of those things all over again. Classroom teachers have to do that as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Did you know garlic is planted in the fall and not harvested until the following summer? That's a long time to reach harvesting. And that's not like a root vegetable, say carrots. I think they only need 60 to 90 days. So we just need to keep that in mind. Everybody's going to grow at a different pace. And if you have to go back a little bit, it's okay. Children have an amazing ability to forget, especially over the summer, that they were once able to complete an entire math lesson without needing a snack or a bathroom break halfway through. So give them a little bit of time. But here's what I want you to ask yourself in your journal. What am I planting right now that I hope to harvest later? I want you to think about some goals. And it could be an academic goal. It could be a character trait. It could be you want your child to be more independent, or you want your child to be someone really willing to persevere when things get tough. Maybe you're teaching your child how to tackle something difficult without giving up immediately. Or maybe you want to have your child build the habit of reading for 30 minutes every day. Or maybe you're teaching your child that writing is a process, and so it's going to take us time and patience. Whatever it is, I want you to jot down for each of your children some of the things that you are hoping to harvest either at the end of this semester or by the end of this grade level. Really think about it. For each child, I love the number 3. When we're doing anything with writing, I always say 3's the number. So think of 3 things you would love to see each of your children harvest at the end of the semester or the year. Because when you know what you're growing, it's a whole lot easier to recognize growth before the fruit even appears. You'll start to see it sprout, and you'll be able to go, oh, it's not there yet, but I'm seeing it's coming. So that's really important. The second thing I want you to do in your journal is think about ways you can tend what you have planted. So that's just a gardening term for doing all the things. I think planting is the exciting part, right? Picking a new curriculum, or maybe you showed your child all the science units you're going to do and they're super excited, or you picked out the 4 novels and they're like, oh, I want to read this one first. It's like planting. It's like going to Home Depot or Lowe's or Armstrong Gardens and being like, oh, look, we're going to plant this and this and this. And we envision how great it's going to be. But then we must tend the garden. And it's not nearly as exciting as the newness of a planting season, because tending means watering the plant tomorrow and again the next day and then the day after that, and then pulling the weeds and adding nutrients, keeping an eye out for insects or pests, maybe protecting the plant if the weather gets bad. It gets cold here. We have to sometimes put things around our plants. And education works much the same way. You cannot just teach something once and assume it's done. Just like you wouldn't put the seed in and walk away for a few weeks or months and come back and expect it to have grown. It wouldn't. You can't do that with children either. Children need repetition. They need practice. They need reminders. They need encouragement. That's how you tend. Sometimes they need correction. Sometimes they need more practice. That's how you tend. And here's where I think we can get ourselves into some trouble. Sometimes we get nervous because we can't see what's happening beneath the surface. So when we start digging up the seed in homeschooling, it looks like changing the curriculum 5 times in one semester, changing the schedule every week because it just didn't click, changing our expectations, or always wanting to try a new week, different approach, and then another, and then another. But think about what would happen if you planted a strawberry plant and then dug it up every few days to check whether the roots were growing. You would probably destroy that strawberry plant. Sometimes the best thing we can do is be patient and give things time. And that does not mean that we're going to stubbornly stick with something that clearly is not working. It's true. A good gardener is also going to make adjustments. If a plant is getting too much sun, sure, you're going to need to move the plant. Or if you can see it needs some extra help, you might add more fertilizer. Okay, but they don't panic every time they walk outside and don't find that strawberry, and neither should we. Consistency often looks incredibly unimpressive when you're right in the mix of doing it. But believe me, little things done consistently have a way of producing big, beautiful results. They just need time. So I want you in your journal to write down how you will tend your child's learning. What things are you really going to focus on that you know you need to do? How will they grow? What do you need to do consistently? As well as, I would write down some non-negotiables. What are you determined to stick with this semester? If you've thought, I know we need to do some kind of a typing program. My child needs to learn the keyboard, the home row skills. We tried 7 different programs last year, and my child never really liked any of them. Maybe one of the things you should be determined to do is to just pick one and see it through from beginning to end. You could set one goal, you could set many goals, but I want you to be willing to do the hard work it's going to require as you tend this educational garden, okay? All right, the third and final thing is that I really want you to consider that we don't want to mistake bad weather for a bad garden. Okay, follow me with this one. The way I was thinking about it is that there is always bad weather in any given year. Any gardener or farmer will tell you bad weather happens. I can almost guarantee you're going to have to weather some educational storms with your kiddos at some point. Maybe there's a week when everyone in the family gets sick. That's never fun, but it happens. Or you're doing that math lesson and it ends up in tears or yelling. That would be what I would consider bad weather. Or you're fighting with a child who's saying, I just hate writing. I don't like it. Those are storms. There could be a morning when you get up, you've got your nice hot coffee, you look at your beautiful schedule, and then all of a sudden something crazy and hectic happens, and now that beautiful schedule is right out the window. That would be the bad weather that I'm thinking as my analogy. Things just don't always go according to plan. You know that. But that's not failure. That's bad weather. And one storm does not tell you very much about an entire growing season. So if you hit one of those rough patches, I want you to resist the temptation to quit. And instead, you're going to ask yourself, okay, what is needed from me right now? Maybe your child needs more time, more patience, more practice. Maybe she needs you to explain something differently again. Maybe he needs more accountability. Maybe all of you need a day off. Or maybe you really do not need to make a change. You just need a restart. But I want you to make that decision based on what you're observing over time, not just because Tuesday was terrible. Tuesday's allowed to be terrible. You are growing amazing human beings, and weather is going to happen. I wish it could be rainbows and sunny days for you always, but it's not. There are going to be storms. And eventually, if you stick with it, even through the storms, and you keep tending your educational garden, something wonderful will happen. But you have to stick with it. You will get to the point where you get to harvest. And the child who once needed you to sit beside him for every assignment is now doing it independently. And that reluctant reader finishes an entire book. And the math concept finally clicks. Hallelujah. We all love that moment. Or that paragraph, the first one you did that took 2 hours, now your child can write in 30 minutes. That's a beautiful harvest right there. And maybe even it's your child's attitude that changes. Something difficult happens, and instead of immediately saying, I can't do this, Mom, you hear, no, let me try again, Mom. That's your strawberry. And please, when those moments happen, I want you to notice them. And that's what I want you to do with this third part of your journal. I want you to call it the harvest page. And as you start to see some things already coming up, like I said, you could get carrots in 60 days, but you're not getting garlic until summertime. Everything is different, but your harvesting page should start as soon as you see some growth. It doesn't have to be the final product. It's growth. What is sprouting? What do you see that's coming up? I think sometimes we get so busy looking at everything that our children still need to learn that we sometimes miss what they've already learned, what's already sprouted. So notice those things, and eventually you'll get to pick the strawberry. And that will be great because you're going to celebrate it and enjoy it. But then you're going to keep tending the garden because you probably have other things in there too. Education is not just one long harvest season. It's very repetitive. We're planting right now. You're going to water. You're going to weed. You're going to protect. You're going to wait. And then you're going to harvest. And then guess what? A new school year will start. And you're going to start this, my friend, all over again. And that's what hit me as I was running. It's time for me to plant a new seed. And yes, I am thinking I'm going to run a turkey trot in November. So if you are beginning the school year and things are feeling messy, frustrating, I just want you to remember, hey, it's not harvest season yet. Not every day gets to be a harvest day. That's okay. We don't need to see the fruit today or the vegetable. What we need to know is that we are growing this beautiful educational garden with these beautiful children that are going to be amazing adults because you are tending to them so well and you are trusting that those amazing strawberries will come. All right, everybody, let's have a fabulous, fabulous fall semester. Right on. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. And hey, if you are feeling stretched thin and you would love some support with teaching writing, I offer programs designed to make that part of homeschooling easier and more enjoyable for both you and your child. I also have free resources on my website, so please be sure to check those things out and subscribe to the podcast. You do not have to do this alone. Right on.